So this is a bit of a weird situation. We were supposed to be talking in this podcast about, the America's Cup primarily, the boat and the team's return from Cagliari, the boat build for RB2, our plans for New Zealand in 2021 and the America's Cup. Instead, we find ourselves in a completely different place, as so many people do at the moment, because these new COVID-19 restrictions and coronavirus has changed everything for everyone, hasn't it? So instead of talking about the America's Cup primarily in this podcast, we're going to talk about the other thing that we've been concentrating on at the team base in Portsmouth, which is a huge team effort, just as the Cup is, but in a very, very different way. And it's all about the NHS frontline workers. We've started making masks. We're not just making 1 or 2 masks, we're making now thousands of masks. So I thought it was really important to explain what we're doing and tell that story, because I think it's really interesting. I think it'd be interesting for lots of people. So how do we go about making a mask, and why are we making them? We know why we're making them, but how can we as a sailing team make them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, fundamentally, our core goal is still very much the America's Cup, and the team are doing a fantastic job across the board, be that in design or build. Sailors working really hard on how they can improve their fitness and ideas for the boat and when we finally get back on the water. But in these unfortunate times we find ourselves in, it became clear that there was a real requirement for PPE from our local healthcare workers. And it's something that we could actually make a difference. We've got a fantastic group of sailmakers there with the team who have perfect skill sets for manufacturing PPE and in particular the face mask. And then working with some of our suppliers, our partners such as Renishaw, Spinlock, Mercedes. It's been a great collaboration, really. It's come together. So like you say, we've been manufacturing over 100 masks a day. And they've been going out actually locally, but also nationally now. We've had clinics in London that have been reaching out, requesting PPE. And then the whole team has really got behind this core manufacturing base. So, again, whether that be a boat builder or a designer or a sailor, have come in and helped that manufacturing process from time to time. It's been something that the whole team has really got behind. I think we all feel incredibly proud of that group that are making a difference, getting this PPE out to those core health workers at the front of this crisis.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that we felt it was important for you guys to see how this mask goes from being just an idea in somebody's head, which it was with Ollie Pendleton, one of our designers, to how it becomes an actual instrument for the NHS to use in their daily lives and effectively not just save other people's lives, but also their own. And as you'll hear later, that is exactly what they're doing, which is why it's so important that we continue to do what we're doing as well at the base during this time. So we're going to show you a short video, which we hope you'll find interesting, which is all about how we go about designing this mask, making this mask, distributing this mask. It's so important for it to get to the right people. And then after that, I'm going to speak to some of the key people that have been involved in the whole process.
This is a global crisis, and it's everyone's responsibility to be hands-on fighting it. With our expertise here with production and manufacturing, it only made sense to do what we can. Using our connections with Mercedes-Benz Applied Science, we're now producing over 100 a day of these face shields.
We're going to be printing the frames, and then the sailmakers are making the actual face screen downstairs on the sail loft. We're also experimenting with a PETG, which is basically recycled milk cartons. So we're hoping to use as much recycled material as possible.
We deliver them to be disseminated to all the people who are truly in need of it.
Ollie, first up, how on earth do you go about designing something that you've never made before, especially when it comes to such an important item as a life-saving face mask? Where does that process even begin?
Well, the demand was pretty obvious. You know, a lot of people needed these things, and we were quite limited in what we could do on our printers in the very beginning. So it was a sort of a balance between what's going to be a good product and it's going to be usable, and what can we make a lot of quickly. So in the beginning, the bottleneck was the 3D printer. So we picked maybe 3 designs that we tweaked to then get on the printers. And I printed 3 or 4 of each. And then Sam and Curtis then made some prototypes, and we evaluated them pretty quickly. and just said, right, well, this one's going to be the one to use. Let's go with that. And so it all happened really quick. So it was a case of just design it, build it, evaluate it, and then pick one. So it happened probably in about 36 hours.
I mean, we're a sailing team and we normally build race boats. So why masks? Why are masks something we can do?
I mean, the idea came from lots of people locally that were doing it, and some of the other guys around had done it. And so it seemed like an obvious thing. It was a pretty straightforward thing because it could be made in a 3D printer, and because we had a 3D printer in house, that it was the obvious thing to do. It just sort of screamed out at us, really. You know, it almost said you should be doing this. You know, when you see it happening. So it was pretty easy decision, really.
So we've got a 3D printer in-house, which normally prints stuff like boat parts, I'm guessing, and things that house circuit breakers and that sort of technical equipment.
Exactly. Yeah.
We borrowed a 3D printer from the 1851 Trust, the charitable arm of the team. They lent us theirs. So how many printers are we using and how many masks can we produce with the printers we've got?
So we picked a design that you can stack up. So you can stack lots of frames up on top of each other. And we can print about 20 a day. And then with the 1851 printer as well, it became more like 25 a day because that one's a bit smaller.
And we're not just making 25 a day, are we? Because we've got the help of Mercedes Applied Sciences as well, right? So how many over the course of a week can we make collaboratively with their help?
Well, it has escalated pretty much exponentially over the past few weeks. And so what started off as a kind of almost a cottage industry, you know, in the design office in the sail loft, grew very quickly once Mercedes got involved because they have a whole room full of 3D printers, and so they can print 100 a day. So I think we're moving into the sort of area of more like 600 a week, and then there was chat this week as well that we would move up to more like 1,000 a week.
Wow.
So
how many did we intend to print when that first conversation you had with Grant, which was about 15 minutes long and sort of along the lines of this is what we're going to do, how do we best do it? How many did we envisage we would do then versus what we're going to end up doing?
We didn't really know. It was just a case of we should be doing this, let's do it and see what happens, because we were always going to supply Mark Coombs at with his clinics. He was our obvious sort of go-to guy. You know, we're doing this. What can you use these? And he was very encouraged by the whole thing straight away and said, of course we can use these, you know, and we'll take as many as you can get. And then Ben Williams had been speaking to QA as well to see what they were doing. And they, I don't know if it was tongue in cheek, but they said, well, if you could give a mask to every single one of our staff, then that'd be great. And that's 5,000 people. So all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is becoming massive. So, and that's when I think Mercedes started to step up a bit and said, well, you know, we'll produce you with that 100 a day, and it sort of snowballed from there.
God, it's unbelievable, isn't it, to think this is where we are, sort of, you know, after the last, you know, few weeks or so. It's just, you know, everything is just the world in such a different place. I mean, can you believe that you're part of this process to make face masks that are going to actually save lives? It's just mad when you think about it like that. No,
it didn't really hit home until Mark Coombs had emailed Grant and said, it's, you know, we're not joking when you say that these masks will save people's lives. And then Grant forwarded that email onto us, and you know, strong words, you know, you read that stuff and you're like, oh, it's a big thing. You know,
do you feel that responsibility? Do you feel that?
Kind of, well, yes and no, you know, because you're not on the front line, as it were. You're not the guy wearing the mask. You're not the guy doing it. We're just producing the mask. So as you're doing it, as you're producing the mask, you're like, well, we're doing a good thing. And it's only when you get messages like that from people that you're like, wow, actually, hang on a second, we're doing something really cool here, and this is, we are making a difference. So that's lovely. And then there was the Facebook post that went out, and of course my mum jumped all over it and fired it around, going, "Look what my boy is doing!" And then all this is just rafts of message going, "Oh, you must be so proud," and Mum going, "Oh, I am really proud, obviously." So it's cool, you know, it's cool, but it's obviously a great thing to do. So you know, kind of quite proud of it, really.
Quite different to the day job.
Very different to the day job, and yeah, it's been quite a distraction, but yeah, it's obviously very different to the day job, but it's a pretty dark place at the moment, the world at the moment, isn't it? So to be able to do this and get these nice messages and realise that you are making a difference is a big plus point. Very proud, really.
World away from where we thought we'd be in March 2020, isn't it?
We should be in Cagliari, shouldn't we? Racing everybody else.
Yeah, that all feels a little bit insignificant right now.
It does, yeah. It's bizarre. It is bizarre.
We'll get back there. We'll get back there at some point. Well, listen, thank you so much, Ollie, and you're doing a phenomenal job. And we're all so proud of you and so grateful as well, because it it's the right thing for the team to be doing right now.
Cool, no worries.
Brilliant. I'm going to turn my attentions now to the sail maker that is Sam. Thanks, Ollie.
All right, I'll see you later.
So, Sam, I've just spoken to Ollie about the design of this mask. And we are now entering talking about how you actually make the thing. So you're a sail maker. How on earth did you end up making a mask?
Well, Grant called me, and then we came up with the idea of taking it on. Basically, the mask side of it uses a bunch of materials that we use in the sail making with the team, and we had quite a bit of stock of the componentry required. So with Ollie's 3D printing component and what we had in the sail loft, we were able to make the first couple of hundred of the masks. So it wasn't foreign to us, the materials required, I guess.
How does it happen that we have the same material that's required to make a face mask and one that is obviously so important right now to the NHS? How do we have that in our armoury? Is that just a usual thing? Is that a coincidence? I mean, how did that happen?
It is a coincidence. The screen that is used on the masks, we use the same product for all the patterning, for the signage that goes onto the sails, all the painting, all the INEOS logos and stripes and the like that you see on the sails when the boat's racing, is the same product as it is used in the medical industry. Believe it or not, it's a very cost-effective product that we use, and it crosses over for the medical industry. So we probably, I would say by luck that this has come about, that we had a stock of it, which has been the hardest part of the project, that has grown from being I think initially Grant and I spoke about doing 100 of the masks, and then a couple of days later we thought we should do 1,000 of them, and now it's grown to in excess of 5,000. So the actual acquiring more of the product has not been as easy as what we thought it may have been, just because of the medical industry using up at the moment with the epidemic.
So how can we get more? Can we get more?
We actually had a delivery of 500 metres of the stuff on Friday, which will get cut this week. Spinlock here in Cowes have offered to do the cutting for us on their cutting bed that cuts all the componentry for their life jackets and the like that they supply to us, and to other sailing requirements around the world, so that they're getting involved. So it's sort of grown from a small project that we thought we would do in-house to other parts of the industry getting involved and supporting it.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because so much of what a sports team is about teamwork and about everyone kind of pulling their weight in individual areas to sort of come together for the greater good of something. I mean, you don't get a greater good of anything more than this, do you?
No, and you sort of, it's actually been a great process, even when you take away the virus and all the rest of it, just to actually bring people within the team together, A lot of the departments, obviously, we all go and have lunch together every day, and we all have a coffee along the way. But there's a lot of people within the team you start to realise that you actually don't communicate with very much, and it's actually been internally has been a good thing as well. But you're down there with the sailors or one of the electronics guys and put a couple of masks together, and it has been a positive from that side of things as well. And everyone feels like they're doing something for the greater good. Sometimes we ask those questions of ourselves when we're involved in the sailing industry, I guess.
Yeah, do you ever just take a moment I know you're really busy, so you probably don't have many, but do you ever just take a moment and just think, my God, what we're doing here is actually hugely important?
I guess you do go through moments of that. Sometimes you sort of look at the amount of these masks that we've sort of committed to making, and you sort of wonder how we're going to get through it all, and then everyone pulls in. And all of a sudden you're doing more than you thought you were able to. You definitely, it's been nice to feel like we have got, even though it's the tiniest little thing that we're doing in the scheme of things, we're helping, hands on with the virus or the protection of the people for our countries. I think is great, and I think it's definitely helped within our household and for the team, I think, to feel like we are doing what we can do to justify our time.
In a normal world, Sam, what should you be doing right now?
Right now, we should be making sales that we were going to be testing in the next couple of weeks on the Solent, to be honest. We're pushing forward to do our best job for the coming, for the America's Cup. That still hasn't lost sight in all our minds, even with doing this stuff.
Well, Sam, crack on with it. You're doing such a good job. We're so proud of you. We're going to speak to one of the people that's been putting these things together. He's a sailor most of the time, but apparently not at the moment because he's all hands on. And that's Giles. So I'm gonna chat to him now. And love you and leave you. But well done. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, no, not a problem. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Sam. Thank you. Thanks. So, Gilo, I've just been talking to Sam, Sailmaker Sam, about how you go about making these things. He tells me that you guys have all been pitching in. So, from a sailor's perspective, how have you been helping in this battle to produce maximum amount of masks?
Well, I suppose there's a bit of a mini production line on the go. And the mask is super simple. The 3D printer prints out the frame, and the screen bit is cut out by hand out of Mylar. So whenever we've had a free 3 minute, we've been going down, cutting them out, and then they're just hole punched and fastened onto the frame. So they're super simple to make. But I think the big thing is, well, they're kind of quite time consuming. So it's very much a team effort. I mean, I don't know the exact number that we produce, but it's one of those where it's many hands and light work,
Yeah, I think the aim originally was hundreds, and now we're talking about multiple thousands.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I suppose it's every single one more we can make is always going to help, isn't it?
And what does this time feel like for you? What's the last couple of weeks been like for you? Because not just have you been worried about the America's Cup future and the team and that, but I mean, also the Olympics has been cancelled or postponed, I should say, until next year. And that was something you were focusing on. So, I mean, so much has changed for so many people over the last couple of weeks. Health, of course, is everyone's priority right now. But I mean, what does it feel like at the moment going into the base and producing masks with all the other stuff going on in the background?
Well, it's a little bit strange, firstly, because of how quickly everything's developed. We only have to go back a few weeks and we were solely focused on, the America's Cup. And I also had the Olympics to think about as well, which very quickly the Olympics anyway got put back, and the Cup stuff not put on hold, but certainly had a robot put in front of it. And I suppose, one, it's nice that we can firstly keep the cup program still rolling along, and within that, if we can help out the national push to help the NHS in our little way, then that's amazing as well. So I think as an organisation and a group of people, I think everyone is pretty stoked that we can do our little bit.
And what's this like assembly line like at work? What's it like at the base? Ben and I can't go to the base because we're self-isolating because my mum's living with us at the moment and she's on that vulnerable list. But what's it like for those of you that are able to go in and are able to help in this effort?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's quite a nice little social break, because there's lots of it's a very boring task to do. And it's time consuming, but there's a few of us, obviously at a distance, but who just put together some masks, have a little chat, and pass the time. But ultimately we're still really busy as well. So the amount of people that have been rolling through and helping out has been quite a few, and it's I'm sure there's a lot more people than you're going to speak to about it. As I said, it really is a group and a team effort to try and produce as many as possible.
Yeah, I was speaking to Sam earlier about the team ethos as well. So often the sports team's about how you perform on the field of play, or in your case, on the water. Doesn't feel like that's what this is about anymore.
No. Well, I think that, ultimately we are still a sports team, and we're still, well, as long as everything goes ahead as planned, which hopefully it will in a year's time, once we're through all this, we'll be back to the nitty gritty of sport and competition. But right now, as a sportsman, and as many other sportsmen as well, everything has just been put on hold.
When lockdown eventually comes to an end, or however that may manifest itself, which way it is, people are going to need sport, aren't they? They're going to need sport more than ever to just be entertained, to escape, just to feel that general sense of we're getting back to some sort of normality. So how important a role do you think it's going to play again in people's lives in the next few months, in the next year?
Well, I'm a bit biased, but I hope it'll be a massive role. I mean, it's strange weekends coming around and there being no sport to watch. You can see, even when you turn the TV, you can see TV channels are struggling with no sport. And I do think that when it does come back, hopefully it will be a bit of a national sigh of relief, and kind of thank God it's back. And I think since it's disappeared, it kind of becomes more clear how important it is to so many people. Whether you compete in it, watch it, or just have one in the background. So yeah, for sure, getting back to a bit of sporting normality has got to be a good thing.
You sportsmen are born competitors, so is there are you able to kind of get that out on the production line of assembling these masks? Has it become like a bit of a thing, how many you can do in a minute?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, the first time I went in there, I was with Cornish, and we were immediately trying to race through it. But yeah, it's you end up getting sore fingers though.
It's amazing though that even in the darkest of moments, which ultimately the nation is in at the moment, you can find some light in that. You can have a race to the finish of making a mask.
That's it. Competitive through and through.
That's you. All right, thanks, Gilo. I'm going to catch up with Ben Williams now on how on earth you're going to distribute these across Portsmouth and the local communities.
I think we've got heaps on trying to build enough. In honesty, I think it's not like we're going to be left with any. That's for sure.
No, well, I think that's a good thing, but it's also worrying. Okay, all right. Thanks, Gilo.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
So Ben, in your normal role, you're responsible for human performance, but in this particular scenario, you're responsible for mask performance, and where it gets to is key, right? So how do you go about working out where the right place is to place it and how many need to go where?
I established some contacts and said, what does the landscape look like? How many items of PPE do you need, and how many face masks do you need? How many nurses and doctors and cleaners and porters do you have? And what's the demand, basically? Because I wanted it to be an evidence-based decision rather than a emotional decision.
That's difficult, right? Because it is an emotional story. The whole thing is emotional, and people get very emotional about it. So how do you take that out of it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody that's working on the front line, and it is an emotional decision that you always want to help the people you know. But that doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. And I think the right thing to do is if everybody works locally outwards and make sure that people local have got the right equipment, then everybody in their own area will end up with the right equipment. So I guess it wasn't really how do we make that decision. It was, what information do we need to make that decision? How do we make sure we make the right decision at the right time? And that was about establishing what the requirement was and taking a non-emotional, cool head decision on the information that we got from those people.
So what was the requirement, and where are we putting them, and how many are we placing where?
Well, the sheer fact of the matter is there are 5,000 people at the Queen Alexandra Hospital that are staff, whether that's from porters, cleaners, all the way up to senior doctors. From that 5,000, over 2,000 of them are directly impacted by COVID-19 patients, whether that's cleaning or actually providing nursing and doctor services. Outside of that, the new government guidelines are everybody that you treat, you should assume is COVID-19. So, from that 2,000, you extrapolate very quickly to the 5,000 total people working on site. On top of that, you've got 300 people that are working in hot clinics throughout East Hampshire. And on top of that, you've got another 300 to 500 people attending or operating South Central ambulance services. So, quite quickly, we're up to almost 6,000 requirements of individual masks.
Can we meet that demand? Can we do it?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not my part. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work. People that you've already spoken to. And I think by next week there should be somewhere between 600 and 1,000 masks made per week, depending on how many materials, resources, and people we can get our hands on. Obviously, because not only are we trying to make them, we're also trying to abide by the rules of social distancing put in place by the government, which are quite rightly so. We don't want to put people at risk by doing a good thing.
Your background then is army. So you've seen war zones, you've seen, situations which are horrid, and seen them with your own eyes. And also you've been in the fire brigade. So how does sort of this experience compare to anything you've seen previously? I mean, we talked about before, we're living in unprecedented times. But how does this compare? Does it compare to anything that you've ever seen before?
I think the word unprecedented is absolutely right for what's going on in the global landscape. From 2001 onwards, life has been very different in certain elements, but I don't think the whole global landscape has looked like it does now since way before then. I don't think anybody's experienced lockdowns. I don't think anybody's experienced the level of care and responsibility we need to take at the moment to ensure people's safety. So, I certainly never experienced anything like it with my experience in the military as a public servant and in the fire brigade as a public servant. And like all of these horrible situations, we will only learn from it. And medical practice and procurement practice and supply chain practice, and all of these sort of things will progress as a result of it. And we should make sure we learn some very good lessons from what's going on. But essentially, I don't think anybody's ever experienced anything like this that's around at the moment. And we shouldn't be quick to judge people on their decisions they make, because like who's ever made a decision about something new they know, it's very new. You can't judge people by the reactions they're making in unprecedented times, because there is no evidence really to support their decision making. I think as long as we understand that and follow the guidelines as best we can, and everybody does everything they can to support those guidelines and the work going on by the frontline services, then we're in good shape. But we definitely need to make sure we learn from what's going on.
Yeah, but the people we're doing all this for are people like Mark Coombe and his practice, his hot clinic, and hopefully what we're providing him with is something for him to be able to do his job, to the highest possible ability. So I'm going to say goodbye to you, Ben, and say enjoy the rest of your evening, and speak to Mark. But lots of love and take care.
Thank you, Georgie. Cheers.
So, Mark, if you're facilities manager, that means you're in charge of the base in Portsmouth, and you're in charge of what happens within the base in Portsmouth and all the comings and goings. What's the last couple of weeks been like for you, considering we're a sailing team and we're not doing any sailing?
It's been tough. I mean, trying to get all the stuff back from Italy has been a lot of work, and obviously I don't deal with the logistics, but they're getting the stuff actually back into the base from port, from the ship itself, and then getting the base ready for all that kit to come back has been tough. I mean, ultimately we can't have that many people in the building, so there's been quite few hands to sort of help with that sort of thing.
You are one of our people in the team. I always think of you as this is the most proud to do the job that you do, and you're very proud to support the team, and you want to bring the cup home, and you're really passionate about that. How does that scale alongside what you're currently doing, which is a production line of life-saving masks?
It's truly incredible, isn't it? I mean, not only to be a part of the team that's representing Great Britain, but now we're able to help with this awful situation that's going on now. Being able to be directly involved in that is great. I mean, under awful circumstances, as said.
Yeah, I bet in certain moments it can be quite an emotional thing, can't it?
Yeah, it truly is, especially with some of the stories that you hear. Having to well, not having to obviously, but going down and dropping those face masks off to the people who truly need it. You hear all these sorts of stories that are coming out, and sometimes you have to take a step back, because it really does get to you. It really does.
Yeah. Tell me about that as well, because you're the man charged with the task of getting these to the right places and putting them in the right places. Subsequent to a conversation Ben Williams may have had about who needs them and how many are needed in what particular clinic. So what is that journey like? What is it like loading up these masks and putting them into a van or a car or whatever it is to take them to a facility that needs them most? And what are those conversations like that you're having with the doctors and the nurses you see at the other end?
Loading them into the car is obviously quite a satisfactory feeling to be on that sort of final stretch for that batch, if you like, and getting them out to where they need to be. That's great. Seeing the look on the faces of the people who receive them at the other end. Zaid, for example, yesterday when I dropped off the last batch to them, we dropped off 120 to Zaid. Actually, it was quite late, so I dropped it off at his house, and him and his wife came out, and just they were so happy. Words can't describe that sort of conversation. Like, he wanted us to sit and take a picture, so I'm sure that will surface at some point. But
does it feel though like you're making a real difference?
Yeah, especially when you see the look on their faces. I mean, yeah, I mean, it is hard to put into words. It is tough. It's tough to Well, you can only imagine what they're going through right now. We're not there. Ultimately we're just behind the scenes and trying to do what we can to help them, but we're not there. We don't see what they go through. You can only begin to imagine. So to see the look on their face when you're dropping them off and how happy they are, especially in a situation like they're going through at the moment, is incredible. But yeah, if only we could do more, right?
When all this is over, when we've maybe won the America's Cup or not, who knows, and then in the near future, and brought that back to Britain, and that was supposed to be the thing that was going to make us, most proud in the next 18 months or so. And where will that sit, do you think, alongside what we've done in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question, isn't it? It'd be incredible to bring the America's Cup back home, but to keep everyone safe is obviously up there. There's nothing like being able to do what you can to save lives, right?
And you're a Portsmouth boy, born and bred. So what does it mean to you to be able to sort of service the local community in this way?
That's great, for sure, especially so close to home as well. Yeah. But also, it's not just us that are having this problem,
Well, let's hope we can make a difference, however small a difference it is. Let's hope it's something, right? It feels better to do something than nothing, for sure. Okay, Mark, I'm going to love you and leave you and move on to the other Mark Coombs, who you have been helping so much by sending him the mask that he so vitally needs. So I'm going to speak to him and say thank you to you.
Okay, so this is what we were given by the NHS, which actually, when you look on the box, it's a mask for beauticians, and it had even expired, so they'd taken off the expiry date. So it was an expired beautician's mask, and it's thought that within about 4 to 5 minutes, a mask like that, because it's just paper, it hasn't got a valve of any sort on it. As soon as it becomes moist, it becomes porous, which means that the virus can go backwards and forwards. And so really the only value of a mask like this is if you sneezed or coughed, it would prevent large droplets going onto the patient. So to a certain extent, it may prevent you coughing onto a patient, but otherwise it's pretty useless. We got actually 3 sorts of masks from the sailing team. The second one, so if you think of that as a sort of grade 3, this is a grade 2, and you probably can't see, but it's got a valve in it.
Yeah.
So the valve is the thing that protects it from getting wet, so that you're actually breathing in and out. And so this is a grade 2, probably, which prevents about 92 to 95% of virus either way. And then the main ones, which have just been gold for us, that we wear every day, is this one, which is the next stage up, and it's the best of any disposable mask that you can get, and it's probably 98-99% all virus either way.
Let's have a look at that, Mo. Mo, can you lift it up just so we can have a look at it?
So this is the FFP3 mask.
Okay.
And it's
So those are not ones supplied by by the government for the NHS.
No.
Those are ones that we've had to provide.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you've provided us with both the 2 levels of better style mask.
And that's just
the advantage with this one.
That's because we could procure them, and that's because we had them in stock, right, for the work that we do on the sailboat.
Yeah, I assume so, and I presume because of the overall wider company's involvement in chemicals and things like that. I would imagine that it's the sort of stuff that you may have had in stock. I mean, we did get the higher grade masks as well, which are the plastic masks. We were sent some of these, and we by and large sent these on to the primary red site and to A&E, and we were also sent the suits that nobody could get, which once again we sent on to the people that needed a bit more than us.
And what about the face shields themselves that we're now actually making?
Yes,
3D printed face shields.
Yes, so the face shield.
I took it.
I will just go and grab one so that I can show you.
Okay, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, so the team approached me and said, would face shields help? And of course, you know, we knew that it would make a difference. So in the first instance, they provided glasses. We know that the virus, by and large, goes through nose and mouth, but it can go through eyes. And so the glasses we got almost immediately, which were great. And then they approached us and said they were going to do some visors. Mm-hmm. And would we like, or would we be able to trial them and just to see what they were like. And so we also sent some through to the QA hospital. And so we both trialed it over a few days. I mean, the first ones were absolutely great. But then, because I'll get Mo to put it on for you, so yeah. This is Darth Vader appearance. So when we started using them, we realized that if somebody was very tall, it was fine. But if you were a bit shorter, there was a little bit of a gap at the top. Yeah. So the second ones have got a bit higher at the top and a bit lower at the bottom. So, I mean, the team have been incredibly responsive to any sort of feedback. And they went from, you know, they produced a few to 50 a day to 150 a day. I mean, it's just been amazing. And we're shipping them directly to the hospital now.
Yeah, I mean, what difference do you think it's actually made in the broad scheme of things? Because we're not through this yet. We've got weeks to go and we don't know how many more waves are coming of this. So, I mean, in the broad scheme of things, I mean, how important are these face masks and these shields going to end up being, do you think?
Absolutely vital. And you know, you're so right, Georgie, in what you just said. There's a good chance that, and depending, once again, you know, there's a lot of scaremongering going around and people worried that this is some sort of, you know, evil virus. This is a normal virus. And so hopefully a lot more people have been exposed without knowing it, and so will be immune. But as we ease lockdown and people start to mix again, there's going to be more people will get it. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, we've got a plan probably to have this sort of equipment in reasonably good supply for at least 6 months or so. And equally in the future, we've got to have access to be able to do it. Lots of people die every year of flu virus, and we should take that more seriously. I think we're going to alter the way that we view large gatherings and groups of people. I went for a walk on Sunday just to get a bit of exercise. There was a lovely little family, 3 little kids and the parents. And as I came around the corner, they saw me and they froze because I was another human being. And I thought, crikey, you know, as a young child, if you're growing up in this, you probably view, you know, other people and shops and things because you're being told, you know, don't touch them and don't go near them and don't touch things in the shops, or you're not allowed to the shops. So this is going to go on for much longer, and we're desperately, you know, we need a supply chain to keep supplying this stuff. Otherwise, more people will die. Difficult.
What I would also like to add to that is, I think yes, we have risen to it, but what's made it easy to rise to that challenge is the fact that we have this equipment.
Yeah.
And without this equipment, I can only speak for myself, but I would feel way less enthused to put myself forward, you know, because I know a lot of colleagues who are working in A&Es, who are working, you know, in London in GP surgeries, who frankly are canceling some of their shifts because they don't have the right equipment. Wow. I mean, even when you approach someone who appears lifeless on the ground, and who might need CPR, we follow this algorithm called Dr. ABC, DRABC. So the D stands for danger. Is it safe to approach? So in that situation where you're going to approach someone to maybe perform a life-saving measure, you need to make sure that you're not at risk before you approach the scene. And I kind of draw that analogy when it comes to assessing patients who may have coronavirus, because if you're going to go and see them, you are theoretically going to be putting yourself in an at-risk situation. And better to have the proper PPE equipment to go and assess these patients thoroughly and effectively, especially if we're going to have to bring some of these patients who don't have COVID-type symptoms, but maybe in that asymptomatic stage where that virus is brewing, but it's not manifesting in those symptoms, which is why this is so crucial. And I'm so grateful that you guys have.
And Health Protection England, about 10 days ago, came out with a statement that we need to view every member of the public as positive.
Yeah.
So you've got that advice, from our academics on one hand, and then the other advice, well, don't overuse the PPE, blah, blah, blah. And so, this equipment is vital.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll let you get on because obviously you're going to have another busy day in store, no doubt. Let's hope it's not too busy. But thank you so much for speaking to me, guys, both of you. What you're doing is phenomenal and it's so brave, and we have so much respect for you, and hopefully we can give you everything you need to do it properly.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to meet you. Nice to talk to you.
Bye, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
So I think that's a pretty amazing insight into actually the work that's been going on at the base. And it has been a massive team effort. I think that's the other thing, isn't it, to put across there, is that there have been some key people involved, as you saw just then with me interviewing some of those names that have been involved. But so much more of the team's been involved in a broader sense, and it's kind of in a strange way brought them together in a time where you really aren't really allowed to be together in the traditional sense.
Yeah, it's been a really collaborative approach, I think, within the team and within a lot of our partners. I mean, our core goal still remains the America's Cup, and the team are working, putting a huge effort into that, across the board. But to have something like this, a project like this, that people can delve in and out of around the core team that are running it, I think gives people a great focus, and we're all, like I said earlier, we're all incredibly proud to be able to put something back into helping those on the front line of this crisis.
Well, hopefully, when we speak again in the next podcast, we'll update about masks, but hopefully we'll talk more about what's going on in the America's Cup, and everyone will be in a slightly different place to they are currently.
We will.
Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, we'll speak to you again sometime soon.